The grass shivers once, then the hiss snaps the quiet open. A tiny bird drops from a torn leaf like a spark, wings tight, voice sharp as rain on tin. The hood rises, dark eyes fixed, the old hunger awake. What if survival isn't strength but memory? The air tastes like wet iron and crushed jasmine as the monsoon leans in, heavy and close. The field is a chessboard of puddles and broken stalks, and two lives step into the same square. The bird flutters low, daring, foolish, brave, and the snake sways as if time is slow clay he can shape with a stare. Who decides which life gets spared when balance breaks? A rush of wind from a far storm pushes scent and sound across the ditch. The bird snaps a note that ricochets through reeds. The cobra tilts, reading the noise. For a breath, both freeze. Then the bird moves first, and the world tilts with her. The field holds a secret in the stitched leaves of a low shrub, a cradle made by a beak that knows how to sew. Rain ticks on the seam like a drum keeping time. The path that brings danger is the same path that brings food, and today the path brings a heavy head on cold intent. The tiny bird drops to the mud and lifts again, sketching a line the snake might follow, away from the hidden cradle. She learned this after a wet season that took more than it gave. The sound she makes is thin but sharp, a wire in the air that cuts through the hiss. Far off, a train moans, and the ground hums. The snake pauses, tasting the road of scent and sound, and shifts toward her show. She backs off, then forward, always near but never still. In this dance, each move buys a little time, and time is hope. The sky lowers. The cradle waits. The choice is simple. Lead him away or lose everything stitched into that leaf. She turns clumsy on purpose, stumbling over a root, wings dragging so they look torn. The act is old, borrowed from shorebirds and cousins who learned to fool foxes. He reads the weakness and follows, steady as a pulled rope. She keeps just out of reach, letting the puddles between them break the line. Each splash smells of silt and grass. Amina shouts from a wire in the reeds, pass the warning along. She throws a different note, the kind that rattles, and a pair of small birds join in, then peel away. The field thins to a strip of ditch and brick. She remembers this run from last year, when water rose and carried away a nest she could not save. Not today. She cuts left toward the old drain where the clay gives no grip. The snake follows, sure that hunger is the only truth in the world. Orach is the word to say, of shiny in the world. The drain's a memory written in clay. A slick ledge, a sudden dip, a spillway of algae slick as oil. She skims it like she trained for this very hour. He slides after, faster now, the curve of his body turning into a black ribbon over green film. The wind swings and brings him her scent and the faint sugar of crushed blossoms from the shrubs she used to stitch. She lifts, lands, lifts again, marking a dotted line through the maze. Thunder rolls flat above the fields. For a moment, the world is only pattern. Her stop-start flight, his unbroken glide, the drain pulling both toward the old culvert. She aims for a post where she can pivot and bolt back if he leaps. She can feel the distance to the nest like a thread tied around her chest. Hold him here. Hold him longer. Make the world bigger than his reach. The rain thickens into chords and sound turns soft and far away. She holds the post, then drops, skimming inches above the drain toward the culvert mouth. He follows. Speed building. Hunger now a simple engine. The water darkens under the bridge where the clay goes to glass. She lands on the lip and kicks free grit so the surface goes loose. His body pours forward. For a breath, the world pauses. A long, drawn string. In the nest behind them, the leaves do not move. The storm pushes a fresh gust that lifts spray and drowns the hiss. She leaps right, a small arc over black water, and he tries to cut the corner. The film on the ledge breaks. He slips. The sound is small but final. A wet slide into depth. She hovers once, shaken by the rush of what almost was. Then from below, a new shape rolls in the dark. The slide ends in a gulp of brown water, but the story doesn't. He rolls once, twice, then finds ground under coils, and rises with mud glossing his hood. The drain coughs a bubble. She hangs in the wet air, stunned by how close the world came to closing. Behind her, the stitched cradle waits like a held breath. He turns, tasting the path she drew, and now the line points the wrong way, back toward the shrub, back toward the soft shells that hold a future no storm should name. She darts low along the ditch rim to reset the board. A shout of lapwings breaks across the field, and the rain answers with a steady drum. Far off, a motor starts. Then fades. She drops to ground again, drags a wing, and throws that sharp wire note. He steadies, aims at her, and begins to pour forward with the slow faith of hunger. The nest is no longer safe by silence alone. The only way is through him. The cradle shows itself only if you already know it is there. 2 leaves pulled, a seam neat as a pocket, a stitch drawn from grass and spider thread. Inside, 3 pale ovals, freckled like light rain on stone. She stitched it low, near thorns, close to the nerves of a plant that shakes when touched. Last season, the water climbed and took what it wanted. This season, she stitched higher, but not high enough to be sure. The snake follows maps that never change. Heat, smell, movement. Yet she has a map too, made of past hurt and new paths. The humans whisper weighing rules that say, watch, don't fix. The air carries a thin sweet of rotting mango and wet earth. She lands on a twig above the nest and throws a string of scolds that curve away toward the fence. The hood lifts again from the ditch. The line of danger bends toward home. It must bend back. She takes the fight sideways, away from that green pocket, into the stubble where wind keeps no secrets. There she beats her wings hard, not to fly but to drum the mud, sending tiny shocks through the skin of the field. A minnow dives, then a wagtail, then 2 bulbuls, brief allies made by alarm. Their voices braid with hers and hang like a bright flag over open ground. The snake stops to read it, then glides, patient, knowing crowds thin. She slips just ahead of his reach, keeps him in the shallow place where his body has to push, where each coil costs. The rain eases to a fine thread. Far away, thunder walks off. She tosses another broken wing act, then a quick hop that says easy catch to a mind that wants simple endings. He answers by rising to strike range, a slow lift of a heavy lid, certain the story will close this time. He cuts right, reading a gap and calls, and the line snaps back toward the shrub. She sees it and drops fast, skimming the thorn crown till her belly almost brushes needles. He follows, head high to rule the tangle. The plant shivers, warning the nest, and she hits a new note. Thin, flat, the one that means decoy. She lands nearly on his path, then skates sideways so his strike would pass to emptiness if he throws it. The world narrows to 2 breaths and a hood. She remembers a flash of teeth from last year that was not his. Another thief, another loss, not this time. She leans in, daring, then snaps away as he lunges. The strike misses by a palm, air tearing with it. Her heart feels like a fist. The humans exhale. He coils to try again, closer to the leaves that hold her reason for this day. The field keeps its own allies. A rope of weaver ants threads the low branch, traffic tight and hot with purpose. She darts across that living bridge and rattles a fresh call, then pauses just long enough for his head to press the leaf. Ants burst like sparks onto scale. He shakes, annoyed, not hurt, but slowed. She uses the seconds to pull him farther from the seam, hopping from twig to twig, keeping his eyes high and hands busy where he has none. The rain thins to mist. Sunlight thinks about coming back, and then gives up. He pushes through the biting line, angrier now, and rises in the clear with a hiss that flattens grass. She backs toward the old fence post that owns the wind. If she times it, a gust there will tilt his reach. If she fails, the hood will fill the frame. The nest is one body length behind her heart. Wind sprints across the patty and brings the rain back hard, a sheet that erases edges and softens fear into focus. She answers with sound, short chips, then a rolling rattle, then a harsh buzz that scratches the air like chalk. He reads each note as location, not meaning, and pushes forward, sure that noise is a flaw. She turns it into tool. The puddles pop under the drum of drops. Every strike he plans must bend around the slap of water and the stutter of reeds. From the fence, the humans hold still, trying to be only eyes and ears. She chooses a low-hummed note she saved for days when the world is big with danger. It rides the wind and echoes off the culvert mouth. He hesitates, pivots, and she slides left, buying 10 heartbeats. The rain grows heavier. The field becomes an instrument, and she plays it tight and true. She breaks the rhythm. Silence. Then one brittle click. Another. She leaps, lands, leaps, drawing a dotted path toward a shallow pan of water where mud hides a mirror. If he follows, his hood will meet his own shape first. He comes on, patient. A slow wall. The world narrows to the span of a strike in the space of a breath. She stops beside the pan and stares at the steel-gray skin that is not sky. He lifts, reading her pose as surrender. The mirror hands him a twin head and he flares to rule both. She snaps sideways, wings skimming water and the hood tips to correct. In that tilted beat she throws her harshest buzz and the sound breaks on the surface like torn paper. He chooses the echo, not the source, and the strike meets rain instead of feather. The field watches with 1,000 eyes. The rain turns to threads, and the light climbs a little, enough to paint edges on danger. She swaps feints. A low roll in the grass, a hop that says hurt, a pause that says tired. Each lie is a door she opens and shuts before he can fit through. He wastes nothing, yet the cost of turning grows. Every coil lifted is weight, every glide over stubble is drag. She knows the drain's lip, and the fence's splinters, and the seam of turf that peels when wet. She pulls him there, step by small step, making the whole field into a net. A bulbul dives close and snaps a bright scold in his face. He blinks, angry, and she uses the blink to vanish to the next reed. Far off, a motorcycle coughs and silence returns. She can feel the nest behind her, steady and quiet, like a pulse she keeps time with. Now she sings a string of soft notes most ears would miss, a language of near field and close fear. It is not for him. It is for the shrub, for the folded leaves that hold her work. The plant trembles when touched, and the tremble carries down. If danger comes too near, a leaf shifts and shadows change, and she will see it without turning. He hears only noise and comes on, raising the hood to make the world small. She leads him across the turf seam. It peels under his first press, and his lower coils sink a little. He steadies with a hiss and resets his weight. She sets another lie, 2 steps that say slow blood, and waits for the lunge. It comes straight and quick. She lifts past the strike line by inches, drops behind his head and scolds him back toward the broken ground that favors her light body. The storm saves one last trick. A gust lines up with the old fence and pours like water through its missing slats. She rides it, a leaf with a heart, and sweeps across his face so close she feels the cold of his scales. He turns, late. The wind lifts her again and drops her at the post where the swirl is strongest. She bounces once, twice, and gives a cutting call that slices the gust into fragments. The swirl whips loose reed blades into a small cyclone that taps his hood. He braces, surprised, and his next move is not his own. She darts past his shoulder and pulls him into the crosswind, where every strike must fight the air. For a breath, the field itself is on her side. He lowers, gathers, prepares to end this anyway. She faces him, small and bright, and the rain pauses as if to listen. The wind drops, and with it the noise. In the hush, memory steps forward. Last wet season, the water rose fast and turned the field into one flat mirror. The little nest went quiet, then lighter, then gone. The bird learned the map of loss like rope across the palms. Today, she redraws that map with better lines. She skims the ditch rim, not to flee, but to choose ground where the snake must lift more weight and pay for each twist. The biologist marks the angle with her eyes. The recordist feels it in the wire that hums at his chest. A train's breath presses the grass, and the bird uses that push to cross a gap she once misread. The snake follows, sure that hunger erases all mistakes. But the land remembers. Slick clay here, brittle stalk there, a wobble in the fence that throws wind into a curl. The bird threads these notes together and writes a new ending in real time. She drops into grass where last year the flood cut a shallow scar. The soil here is slick on the surface, firm just beneath, a trap for heavy bodies that lean too hard. She touches down, rattles, and drags a wing. Not to trick his eyes, but to put his weight where the ground will argue back. He pours after her, and the top skin slides under his first shot. He corrects, slow, proud, and rises to rule the space. She hops to the only dry knot of root and waits. The biologist whispers to no one that this is learned, not chance. The recordist closes his eyes to catch the shape of the sound. Her rough buzz, his short hiss, the small tear of clay. A bulbul flashes through like a thrown coin, and the snake flares to claim it, then returns to the only truth he trusts. The field lets him move, but not straight. She remembers the shrubs that stitched too low and the ones that swayed too much. She takes the snake along a corridor of stems that bounce just enough to send signals down the line. A living tripwire. Each touch tells her where his head is without a glance. She keeps him in sight with sound, not with sight, and the field becomes larger because she can look forward, not back. The rain thins to mist, and the smell of green rises warm from the soil. The biologist lifts her glasses and the world sharpens. The recordist lifts the mic and the world grows near. The bird gives a soft call that only matters within a few steps. It sits on the reed and waits for him to move the next bead on this wire. He follows, patient, certain that all roads meet him. The tripwire hums. She is already 3 steps ahead. The culvert returns like a lesson reviewed. Last season she reached it late, with water on her back and panic in her throat. Today, she reaches it early, with breath to spend. She skims the rim where algae films the lip and taps grit loose again, but not for a fall, only to mark the edge he must fear. Then she veers to the broken fence post that throws crosswind into a steady shoulder. He reads her path and lifts, ready to cut the angle this time. She answers by going still. The stillness is a move she never had last year. It hangs in the air like a question. Will you spend the strike on a statue? He hesitates, loses the shape of her in his own sway, and lowers to reset. In that small drop, she writes 2 beats of safety, and the field nods, a quiet yes under her feet. The map in her head gains a new road. She plucks a long grass thread and drops it near the ditch mouth, then flies as if pulling it behind. The line sticks to wet clay and draws a flicker when the wind tugs. He tracks the jitter like a weak tail and turns to claim it. She uses his turn to cut back along the safer ridge that leads away from the stitched cradle. The biologist bites her lip, then lets the breath out slow. The recordist whispers that the buzz has changed. Less fear, more control. The field opens, wide and simple, as if the storm plans to leave. The bird keeps him between mirror and wind, between slick and seam and traces the edges of every old mistake without stepping on them. The snake follows, engine low, certain the small hunger in front will fill the large one inside. The clearing light looks kind, which is the oldest trick the sky knows. She rides it low across the ridge and misjudges a cross eddy that rolls off the culvert wall. The lift she expects is not there, for one raw beat her body dips into his range, and the world tightens like a fist. He rises, clean and sure, the strike a straight black nail. She snaps left and feels the cold wind of him pass her tail. A reed explodes behind her with a dry pop. She drops, skims, claws at air, and clears the lit by a wing's width. The hiss that follows is short and angry. She lands hard on a post, and the wood shakes under her feet. Error written, lesson learned. The nest is 2 turns away, and the field now feels smaller. She breathes, fast and thin, and counts the sounds that mean alive. Drip, buzz, footstep, distant horn. He resets, lowers, and the chase rights itself again. She tries a tight turn around a thorn crown, but a bead of rain waits at the wrong place and slides her foot. The slip is nothing, but nothing is enough. He lunges again, closer, and a spray of brown water freckles her chest. She kicks off a twig that breaks and falls back into the space between his head and the thorn. For a breath, they share shadow. The sound inside that breath is a long wire pulled hard. She snaps a harsh buzz that drills his ear and throws herself through a small gate of reeds that hits his hood on the way down. It buys her 3 steps. The nest sits past the next bend, but the straight path is no longer safe. She chooses the longer line along the hummocked ground where his body cannot keep smooth rhythm. The sky dims, then brightens, like a slow blink. She keeps moving. Hope must be in motion to stay real. The hummocks turn the chase into a drum solo. Each mound lifts her clean and drops her where she wants. Each dip steals his glide and makes him spend. She throws in a stumble, then a sudden burst, and he wastes a coil to cover a gap that was never there. The biologist whispers the word, cost like a prayer. The recordist catches the small sounds that tell the truth. The scratch of scale on dry grass, the light slap of her feet, the hush of breath between calls. She leads him toward a shallow fork where one path loops back to the nest and the other curves to the open. He is close enough that the fork will decide it all. She gives a soft note that used to mean, feed me, when she was small. It is a lie that still tastes like milk. He aims slightly right to where easy prey would wait. She darts left, toward wind and space. He realizes the trick halfway through the turn, and corrects with a hard sweep that drags his back coils across dry stems. The rasp gives him away. She pivots on a stubble crown and bolts for a narrow run between 2 puddles that mirror the sky like twin doors. He tries to cut the middle and finds only water and glare. For a moment, the light makes him a shape without depth. His strike meets a reflection and comes back wet. She rides the edge of the left door, so close her wingtip kisses the surface and draws a silver line. The sound is small and bright, and it pulls him another coil into the mirror world. She climbs a reed, scolds once, and drops behind him, forcing a turn that the puddles punish. In the spin, his hood dips and the field steals more of his breath. The nest stays off his map. She keeps it that way. The turn path brings them to the oldest part of the fence where a broken post leans into a swirl that never sleeps. Last season she arrived here too late, and the wind had no favor to spare. Now she is early. She times the gust and meets it with a hard wing beat that flips her up and over his line. He lunges into empty air, and the swirl steals the clean edge from his hood, pushing his weight to the wrong side. She lands on the post, then drops like a thrown pebble to the safer ridge that ropes away from the nest. He follows, but slower, forced to spend coils on ground that will not give back. The biologist exhales the word, learning. The recordist nods without looking. The field holds steady as if proud. She does not celebrate. She keeps him moving, keeps him tired, keeps the map wide. The legend being born does not know it is a legend yet. The field holds a long breath, then lets it go. He has spent coils and temper. She has spent fear and kept the thread. The nest sits quiet behind the thorn seam, a soft drum she feels more than hears. She guides him toward the culvert again, not for a fall, but for the narrow ledge where choice becomes thin. The water there hums with a steady note that matches her heart. She tests the wind, low and quick, then clips a reed with her beak so it springs back and quivers like a live thing. He reads the shiver as weakness and changes course. The biologist presses her pencil into the damp paper until it leaves a dent. The recordist shifts an inch to aim the mic at the hum. She lands where the algae makes glass and grips the grit she kicked loose hours ago. The plan is simple because it has to be. Make him choose mirror over meat. She remembers the stitch, how leaves can be pulled into shape, and makes a fast knot of grass to the reed's cut tip. The wind tugs and the reed bows, then lifts, a small creature waking and sleeping. She hops aside, small and loud, then goes still to let the lie breathe. He glides in, tasting the moving line, and lifts his head high to own the space. The world narrows to the width of his hood and the length of her shadow. She taps the grit again so it sprinkles down the lip, making a faint rain that smells like stone. He flares to full, proud and certain. The mirror waits where the lip curves. She gives one hard buzz that throws her voice around the culvert mouth, and then drops her body a handspan, offering outline without depth. He sights on the outline and the echo at once, and for a beat, his aim is two places. The strike begins as a thought, then a line, then a world. He launches for the outline and the mirror together, and his weight hits the slick rim where clay, algae, and rain agree to betray. She lifts straight up, a leaf with fire inside, and his mouth closes on the place her shadow used to be. The rim peels like wet paper. His front coils slip and his back coils drive, and the two argue inside his body. She snaps a call that sounds like a rip. It skids across the culvert and doubles back. His head tracks the echo, not the bird, and the next push takes him sideways toward the flow. She hangs for a blink to mark the angle. The biologist gasps once. The recordist hears the soft skid made by scales losing grip. The water is not deep, but it is sure, and its hand is on his chin now. A gust threads the broken fence and pours into the culvert mouth like a second current. The reed knot bows low and trembles. A final taunt. She rides the same gust to the safer ridge and holds there, shouting a flat call that keeps his eye up while his body sinks. He tries to lift, finds only glass and moving air, and slips another coil. The flow takes his chin, then his neck, then the wide engine of his chest. He turns to fight upstream and meets the curve that steals strength. She stays just close enough to be a reason, just far enough to be untouchable. The hum deepens as the culvert swallows more water. The world becomes narrowing options. He rolls once and finds purchase on a mossed bolt, then gives up the lift and lets the current spin him out to the drain below. He does not drown. He is carried. Downstream he lands in calmer water and climbs to the far bank, slick, breathing hard, the hunger cooled by cost. He lifts his hood once more, not in threat but in oath, to remember the map that beat him. She holds the ridge and watches, small and shaking with spent strength. Behind her the stitched leaves do not stir. The cradle keeps its soft secret. The biologist lowers her pencil and writes one line she will keep. Courage is learned. The recordist takes off his headphones and hears the world raw. The hush after rain, the faint train, the bright scold that is more relief than warning. He turns away, not chased, but choosing the path that is open. She escorts his retreat with brief calls, then vanishes into the seam and presses her breast to quiet. The field exhales. What began as mismatch now sits like a new rule in the grass. Small can redraw the map. The field dries by degrees like a hand unclenching. Water pulls back into ditches and the skin of the world shines with a thin coat of quiet. She slips to the stitched leaves and listens for the sound that matters most. The soft tap of life against shell. The beat is faint, but it is there, and it travels through her bones like light. Downstream, the snake's path is only a dark line on wet clay, already softening at the edges. The humans speak low, choosing simple words because big ones feel wrong in a place that just held so much risk. Notes fill a page, sound files blink a red dot, then rest. She does not know she has drawn a legend. She only knows the next hour, the next breath, the next check of the seam. Wind moves the reed fringe and carries a clean smell from the hills. The sky opens a pale door. The day steps through it. Night comes early after storms. The field hums with frogs and small wings, and the culvert sings its soft iron song. She settles on the twig above the seam and keeps the long watch. Memory, once a stone, has turned into a map she can walk without fear. When wind nudges the shrub, she answers with a low note, and the leaves settle as if soothed by a hand. The humans step back, careful to leave no sign but the thin path of their breath. In the dark, they listen to recordings that now sound like a heartbeat learning words. He is out there somewhere, not broken, only turned by cost. The world does not hate him. It only drew a line he could not cross today. The sky clears, and a few stars shine in puddles, like coins scattered for luck. She closes one eye, then the other, and the nest sleeps with her. Morning brings small thunder inside the nest. The first shell cracks with a dry kiss, then another, and the seam quivers as if the plant is breathing too. She keeps close, feeding, guarding, warning, all in a loop that leaves no space for pride. The humans record the tiny clicks and whisper the clean science words for them, but their faces give away the other truth. Awe does not need a label. The field, washed and rinsed, smells new. Ants rebuild. Bulbils argue with the sun. Far down the ditch, a ripple shows where a heavy body moves away from the old fight. The legend begins to travel even before they leave. A message to a friend, a clip sent, a line draft. But here now, it is only 3 wet beaks and a mother who redrew the path between danger and home. The world feels wider, not because it grew, but because she learned its edges. By noon, the field holds class. Footprints of school kids mix with boot prints at the fence, and the biologist keeps her voice easy as she draws the map in the dust. Hear the drain, hear the seam, hear the wind's wrong turn, hear the right one, she says, learning lives in small bodies too. The recordist plays back 6 seconds. The skid, the hum, the call that ripped and came back. It sounds like luck until you hear it twice. Then it sounds like skill. The tiny bird flashes out, loops, and vanishes, keeping watch even as the world looks in. Downstream, the snake slides through a sun patch and leaves a clean S on the mud. No villain, stand here, only choices and their price. The kids nod and lean close. The wind carries the smell of wet rice and warm metal from the tracks. The story lifts from dust and becomes a line they will carry home. Evening folds the edges of the day and makes the colors kind again. The biologist closes her book with a palm kept light, as if weight could bruise the ink. The recordist packs the last coiled cable and listens one more time to the soft buzz that changed a fight. The bird perches above the nest and sings a low thread that is not for us. Downstream, the snake takes the long way round a bend he once tried to own. The culvert hums a quiet promise. Water will come and go and come. But maps can be redrawn. The sky throws a thin pink ribbon across the wet fields. This is the final cut the story deserves. No cheer, no chase, only a wide shot where courage is small and real, and science learns how to tell it. The camera leans back. The field exhales. The legend rests where it was made, stitched into leaves, written in rain, carried by wings.